What's up guys, this is VinylicPuma, and today I'm back with another Borderlands the pre-sequel video, and I'd like to talk about what I think is the best or most fun character to play in the game. Now before we start, this video will obviously be somewhat subjective, given that I might consider one thing to be fun, and you may think it isn't fun, and vice versa. However, I will be providing some objective reasons as to why certain characters are not just better at solo play than others, but also why some characters are better at dealing damage than some of the other characters as well. So while this video will partially be based on my own preferences, it will also be based on some facts as well. However, without further ado, let's go ahead and discuss each character's skills. When it comes to playable characters in the pre-sequel, I think it's fair to say that CLAPTRAP and AURELIA aren't as good for solo play because both of them have an entire third of their skill tree devoted to co-op based skills. In the case of CLAPTRAP, you have his I Love You Guys tree, which provides passive bonuses for both CLAPTRAP and his allies, and when it comes to AURELIA, you have her contractual aristocracy tree, which mostly provides bonuses for just AURELIA and one other ally who agrees to be the servant. Of the two characters, I'd say AURELIA's skill tree is probably worse for solo play because you specifically need a servant in order for a number of the contractual aristocracy skills to work. While for CLAPTRAP, you can benefit from most of the skills from his I Love You Guys tree, however, you won't be able to benefit quite as much as you would be able to if you were in a co-op setting. Now this isn't to say that you can't make a decent solo build for AURELIA or CLAPTRAP, but I do think you'll find that because both of these characters have such a significant portion of their skill trees dedicated to co-op play, that they tend to have less options in solo play than the other characters do. With this said, I think it is fair to say that AURELIA is quite possibly the game's best sniper rifle user, while CLAPTRAP is actually pretty good with both cryo and explosive weapons, provided that you abuse the start with a bang and load and explode skills. And in particular, you can equip a Phrygia to CLAPTRAP, and you can easily walk up to enemies, fire the first shot, which will activate start with a bang, and then you can quickly reload to boost the damage with load and explode. And that is a very viable playstyle. Ultimately, you can play these characters in a solo setting, but I think in general, both AURELIA and CLAPTRAP excel in a cooperative setting. Now this leaves us with the other four characters being ATHENA, Jack, WILHELM, and NISHA. At this point, if I had to knock anyone out, it would probably be WILHELM, mostly because WILHELM tends to be more of a support character rather than an outright damage dealer. Now, while he does have some pretty good skills like laser guided, some decent crit boosting skills like targeting scope, and some great overall DPS boosting skills like overdrive, I feel like he's more functionally similar to Axton from Borderlands 2 and Roland from Borderlands 1 in the sense that he wasn't really designed as a heavy damage dealer like ATHENA, Jack, and NISHA were. Now, this isn't to say that WILHELM can't be played in a solo setting, but I think you will find that because he is more of a support character, he's not going to be able to deal as much damage as ATHENA, Jack, or NISHA are. Of the final three that are left, I would say that NISHA is the most powerful. Now, while I personally think that Jack has some of the best capstone skills in the game, and ATHENA is quite possibly one of the most versatile characters in the game, I think NISHA comes out on top thanks to what I would consider to be a few key skills. Both like and unlike Salvador from Borderlands 2, NISHA is the only character in the pre-sequel that has the ability to dual wield, thanks to her one for each of your skill. And while you can't abuse dual wielding like Salvador can in Borderlands 2, NISHA is going to be able to carry 2 pistols, and 2 guns are always better than 1. NISHA also has access to some other insanely awesome skills like Tombstone and Trick Shots, which either allow you to randomly perform critical hits in the case of Tombstone, or allow your shots to randomly ricochet towards enemies, which is what Trick Shot does. Unlike Jack or Athena, Nisha is really the only character in the pre-sequel that can fire directly at a wall and kill enemies, which I would say on some level makes her superior to the other two. Ultimately, when it comes to the best or most useful skills amongst all of the characters, I would say that it has to go to Nisha. After all, it's pretty hard to compete with Nisha dual-wielding luck cannons when she's spec'd for a variety of skills like Hot Lead, Tombstone, Trick Shot, and the Unforgiven. Now, while I wouldn't say this is an unbeatable strategy, it is definitely really easy to play and makes the game essentially a cakewalk. In terms of action skills though, I think that while NISHA'S Showdown is pretty powerful, especially when it's combined with some of the skills that I mentioned earlier, it's quite possibly also one of the least interesting action skills available. After all NISHA'S Showdown really is just a temporary aimbot that provides some stat boosts. Now, again, while it's by no means a bad action skill, I think Showdown is possibly the lamest action skill in the pre-sequel. In contrast, I would go as far to say that every other character's action skill is just more interesting. For example, CLAPTRAP's Vault Hunter EXE allows him to emulate the actions of other Vault Hunters from Borderlands 2. Or through certain skills, you can obtain additional action packages, which will allow CLAPTRAP to do everything from shooting cannonballs, in addition to skills that improve DPS and just resupply your ammo. Now, while the other pre-sequel characters don't have action skills that are as varied as CLAPTRAP's, I'd still argue that Athena's Kinetic Aspis, Wilhelm's Wolfen Saint, Jack's Expendable Assets, and Aurelia's Cold as Ice are all just far more interesting than NISHA'S Showdown. As for which action skill is the best, though, I think I can say that it's definitely not CLAPTRAP's Vault Hunter EXE. While there is potential for some really great action skills to activate, like Salvador's Gunzerking ability or the pirate ship mode, you can also get some pretty lame ones like the Rubber Ducky or Blightbot. Also, Vault Hunter EXE is totally random and inconsistent, meaning it's not something you can really rely on all that much. Otherwise, I guess it sort of depends on what you want. Of the 4 characters that are left, Athena has the best defensive-based action skill. After all, it's pretty difficult to compete with a character that can just block or absorb a lot of the incoming damage and then throw it back at opponents. Offensively speaking, I think Aurelia's Cold as Ice might be the best, as you can use it to freeze enemies independent of the weapon that you're using, which is great for setting up enemies for critical hits. Now maybe this is just my opinion, but I think Jack might just have the best action skill in the pre-sequel. While it doesn't appear to be anything particularly special at first, given that Expendable Assets is sort of a ripoff of either Axton's or Roland's turret, it's when Jack's Expendable Assets is combined with the leadership skill that things start to get awesome. What leadership does is makes a Digijack's death count as a kill for the player, meaning that you can potentially gain a second wind from one of your Digijacks dying. Additionally, leadership also makes it really easy for Jack to keep a number of his kill skills up, meaning that you can take advantage of skills like synergy, winning, believe, and perhaps most importantly, absolute advantage, which is going to allow you to consume less ammo while you're firing your guns. If you ask me, when Expendable Assets is combined with leadership and a number of Jack's kill skills, you're going to have some of the best defensive and offensive capability in the game, and I think that that potentially makes Jack a great choice for solo play. Now so far, I've mentioned that Nisha and Jack tend to be the 2 characters that seem to come out on top as the best characters in the pre-sequel. However, it is hard for me to say which character is outright better than the other. While Nisha may be the strongest character offensively, given the fact that she can dual wield, randomly perform criticals, and fire directly at a wall and just kill her opponents, I feel like Jack is just far better defensively. After all, the ability to revive off of a Digijack dying is extremely useful. At the same time, I don't think Jack is as strong as Nisha. While some of his kill skills are pretty powerful, and he has some other great skills like Money is Power, I think Nisha ultimately has the edge when it comes to damage output. I guess what it ultimately comes down to is your own playstyle preference. Maybe you'll find that you like Nisha more if you tended to play some of the more berserker or high DPS type characters like Brick or Salvador from the previous games. Or maybe you'll find that you like Jack more if you tended to play Gage, Axton, or Roland from some of the previous games, as he tends to be a sort of a bizarre hybrid of the three. Ultimately, I do think your own playstyle preference is really going to govern which character you pick for solo play. For example, maybe you like to play melee characters in the Borderlands games. Well, I think it's fairly safe to say that both Jack and Nisha make pretty piss-poor melee characters in comparison to someone like Athena, who is actually quite adept and is quite possibly the game's best melee character. Or maybe you like to play as a sniper in the Borderlands games, and I think it's fairly safe to say that Aurelia is the game's best sniper, despite the fact that Nisha may have some advantages when it comes to some of her skills. If you're a new player to Borderlands the pre-sequel, and you have either the Handsome Collection or all of the DLC, my pick for the best character for solo play is going to be Jack. Like I said earlier, Jack is so well balanced and is really the perfect balance between the two beginner characters from Borderlands 2, which are Gage and Axton. However, unlike Gage and Axton, you'll find that Jack is very powerful in later playthroughs as well, especially once you get the leadership skill and a number of kill skills to go with it. If you don't have the DLC, my recommendation would either be Nisha or Athena. While Nisha is the strongest character as far as the vanilla game is concerned, Athena offers a lot of versatility between melee and elemental-based playstyles and is just pretty strong overall. At the end of the day, if you'd like my opinion, I'm going to say that Jack the Doppelganger is the most fun character to play solo. However, you may feel differently because you may like to play melee characters, you may like to play sniper characters, or maybe you like to play berserkers like Nisha. Or maybe you're really interested in playing somebody that's totally random and is totally unlike all of the other characters from the previous games in the form of CLAPTRAP. It's up to you, but otherwise, guys, I think that's going to pretty much wrap up this particular video. If you liked this video, feel free to leave a like, click the bell to join the notification squad, and as always, take care, and I'll see y'all next time.